everyone, my name is Anita and you're welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to show you how to make the best butter cookies ever. Now let's talk about our butter. I used 200 grams of softened butter and that was the base for the cookies. Now remember that your butter should be softened, not melted. Softened butter makes for the best cookies and the best texture for your cookies, and it just builds up everything from there. So even when I whisk it for a few minutes, I still scrape down and just make sure I whisk it till it's as creamy as possible, and then I can move on to my next step. Powdered sugar is basically icing sugar. If you're familiar with icing sugar, that is exactly what I used for this recipe. You can use granulated sugar if that's what you have available, but icing sugar just works perfect because the flavor or the taste of the sugar is very subtle and not as strong as granulated sugar. I used 1 large egg, which is just about all you need for this recipe, and vanilla essence. If you don't have vanilla essence, it's okay to skip that step, but it makes for a great tasting cookie. Of course, a pinch of salt. As you know, salt is a flavor enhancer, and it also helps bring together the flavors of this cookie. The whole idea is to make sure that while mixing, everything is as smooth and as creamy as possible, so you don't have lumps or air bubbles or whatever in your cookies. Now I used 2 cups of flour, and the idea to incorporate the flour into your butter mix is to add them in 2 batches, just so it makes it easier to mix it all together, and again you don't have lumps. So I put something around 1 cup first, sieved so I don't take in any dirt or debris, mixed it thoroughly, and then I added the second batch. Doing it in 2 batches like this made mixing easier and gave me a smoother dough for my cookies. Now I'm going to show you 2 methods to roll or cut your cookies. The first method will require you to put the dough in the fridge for a little time, somewhere around 10 minutes, just so it's cool and easier to roll. In this method, you would roll your dough in a cling film and cut it with a cutter or any instrument you have in your kitchen that has a round or a hollow mouth that can be used to cut anything really. In my case, I used shot glasses or a shot glass because I felt like the tip of the shot glass was exactly the kind of shape I wanted my cookie to be, so the kind of shape and measurement. So my dough is cold and it made rolling easy. The reason why you want your dough to be cold is because the stickier it is, the harder it is for you to roll in a cling film. It will get messy and it will keep sticking to your cling film. So that's why you want your dough to be cold for this method. And as you can see in the video, it's easy to get through. As you can see in the video, I greased the tip of my shot glass with some oil to equally reduce stickiness. Remember, your dough should be cold and not frozen. I left it in the fridge for somewhere between 10 to 15 minutes, and that's about all you need. Frozen dough would defeat the purpose of melting your butter in the first instance, and that would mess up the texture of your cookies. So you want your dough to be cool enough to not stick, but definitely not frozen. So once I was done cutting my cookies in this method, all I did was lift the cut area and place it in my baking tray on parchment paper. If you don't have parchment paper, you can equally grease your baking tray and place your cookies there. But I assure you, parchment paper just makes everything easier, and to be honest, you also save some product because you don't waste butter. Even though thinking about it now, you still expend money on the parchment paper, but yeah, parchment paper makes it easy and less messy. So I lifted all my cut cookies and just placed them on a parchment paper, and that method is ready to go. Now this brings us to the second method, where I use a piping bag. Originally I would have loved to use a star-shaped nozzle because that would give me for prettier cookies, But because I didn't have anyone available, I used what I had, which was pretty much the nozzle nut. The nozzle nut that normally comes when you're icing or piping a cake. So it's round, and I was able to pipe my cookie through that. So if you have a star-shaped nozzle, that would make it easier. Now you can see that in the beginning it was a bit difficult for me to pipe. Two things were involved. First, because my dough was still a bit cold from the first method, and two, because I was just starting. So when you try piping out your dough, if it gets difficult in the beginning, that's okay. Just give yourself some time, and then the more you pipe, the easier it is for the cookie to come out, and then you get, better at it. Now, just for good measure, I topped some of my cookies with coconut shavings, and I topped another one with sugar. The best sugar to use to top your cookies would be caster sugar, but if you don't have that, you can use granulated sugar like I did. I baked till it was done, and like you can see, my cookies were ready. The first ones were a bit wonky, just as we discussed, but as I went on, you can see perfection was achieved. My cookies were decadent, absolutely delicious and buttery, and just exactly what I wanted it to be. I had it with some cold milk, and it was a lovely evening. I hope you absolutely enjoyed watching this video. Please don't forget to subscribe. Leave me a comment in the comment section below. You can also press the notification button just so that you get notified whenever I release some videos. Enjoy and have a wonderful day. Bye.